Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to today's podcast. Today we have a very special episode because we're going to talk about films that we don't like. That's the speciality about today's episode. No, see, in all seriousness, we have a very special episode because we're going to talk about two very different types of films, I feel. One, which is a current film, which released like 6 days before on Amazon Prime and then had a theatrical release a while back, called JugJugg Jeeyo, directed by Mr. Raj Mehta, who made Good News.
ये बीवियां शादी के बाद इतनी बोरिंग क्यों हो जाती है?
पापा आपने मेरी मुंह की बात छीन ली है।
अरे ये बीवियां मुंह से निवाला छीन ले, तू बात की बात कर रहा है।
दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा फेस्टिवल पता है कौन सा है?
कौन सा पुत्र?
घरवाली।
क्यों?
क्योंकि उसे बार-बार मनाना पड़ता है।
इसलिए मैंने फैसला कर लिया है कि मैं तेरी मम्मी को डिवोर्स कर रहा हूँ।
And then the other film we are going to talk about in relation and like slightly separately also is probably because our overall topic today is about comedy in Hindi cinema specifically. The other film we chose is Hrishikesh Mukherjee's Chupke Chupke from 1975. But before that, I would also want to introduce a very new guest who's coming on this channel for the first time. Her name is Sudeshna, and she would like to introduce herself because I think I'm bad at doing introductions. So yes, Sudeshna, go ahead.
It's probably because I don't need an introduction because there's really nothing to say after my name. But hi everyone, my name is Sudeshna. I live in Australia and I work as a pharmacist, which is very unconventional, and it's very strange as to how I might have bumped into cinema in general. But I think I've always grown up being a cine buff and pestered a lot of people with my analysis and my criticism of cinema, which I don't think people really cared about unless and until I actually started pursuing film reviewing and criticism more seriously. So I think I came into contact with Dhruv through the Mami Film Festival's Rashid Irani Young Critics Lab. So he told me about his podcast.
Yeah, I forgot to publicize that ever on this podcast, but yes, both of us were part of that, and we had great
We have
mentors.
not publicized a lot of things, by the way, but moving on.
What is this publication? This is not publication, sorry, publicization that I have to do. But anyways, one of our mentors has already come on this podcast, and I will try to get him again once. Who is Mike McCahill? If you had listened to the episode with him, and then we will someday maybe try to get BR if he is free, but now he's very busy with Galata Plus. So none of these are sponsoring us, by the way. So just this is just like me flagging all this up. Yeah. But this is the first time actually, but we are talking in person. Sudeshna and I think most of our conversations were online because of the festival and the program we were part of. But yeah, I don't think we ever talked about a topic like this in that. I don't think so. So we are being original here is my claim to fame, I guess, of this episode. And joining us also, who just said that what I'm not publicizing, I don't know, but is Aryan again. You will be listening to him a ton in the coming episodes, I feel. And then, yes, Aryan, would you like to say hi? Or
Hi.
okay.
That's the most awkward tune-in I've ever gotten, but okay.
What do I say? You've already said hi so many times on this podcast, and I'm like, I don't know how to like introduce otherwise. Anyways, so Aryan, you are the first one who watched JugJugg Jeeyo. So I would like you to take the honors and ask you why we are discussing this film.
Okay, so I have already been vocal about how I don't watch a lot of movie trailers and all, but there was this thing when me and my dad went to watch some movie at some theater and they showed the trailer for JugJugg Jeeyo, and I was like, this seems like a typical, a feel-good family film and all. And that's when we decided that let's just, whenever this film comes out, let's just give this a shot. Let's just go rush to the cinema and just see how it goes. Because the last Hindi film that we watched was Badai Do earlier this year in March, if I'm not wrong. And me
You
and
went
my
to the
family,
cinema to watch it.
Yeah, but I know on its opening weekend itself, and it was like an empty theater, and that's why we were surprised, and I actually felt good watching JugJugg Jeeyo in an almost full theater. It was fully occupied, and that's something that I hadn't seen in a long time. I mean, I had watched Vikram and some of those MCU films and all, but this seemed like a proper wholesome Dharma production film that people went to see, collectively. And it did good box office wise,
Did
which
it?
has become very rare for. Yeah, it did.
I thought
It
it didn't
earned
make up
like
its
more than
money.
100 crores. No, it did.
Oh, it did.
Compared to
Okay.
its budget, yeah. And it had a healthy run. It
Hmm.
wasn't thrown out of the cinemas, and yeah. So the thing is that I like the film for some of the attempts which it made, and especially the way it handled one character, which I think was perfectly casted, the
Okay.
character of Anil Kapoor. And I knew that they wouldn't land the ending with his character in terms of character arc and all, but I wasn't surprised that they did not land the ending for that part,
Hmm.
and they kept on going in circles.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I like the effort, and
That's
the
what we are
best
giving
thing,
marks for now. Efforts for better
yeah,
handwriting or whatever that.
yeah, it's kind of like that. I mean, it's definitely a very, very flawed film,
Yeah.
and it definitely has its moments where it just keeps on going, and it's a lot of the jokes feel childish and stretched, and it's
I was
just
about to ask
the
you.
musical cues. The
Yeah,
musical cues don't help that
I
either.
was about to ask you how did you know or do you know how many times you laughed or like whatever? Like I know if you
I
laugh too
chuckled
many,
here and there.
huh?
I chuckled here and there, and Manish Paul. I mean, I know people who hated his character, but I mean, I didn't mind him.
Yeah, neither did I.
But oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you are. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Sudeshna, you go ahead first. I think I'm the least like enthusiastic almost, but yeah, go ahead.
Think from what Aryan is saying, I think he enjoyed the experience of the cinema more than the actual
Yeah.
film. He liked watching
Yeah.
it with
Definitely.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that sounds like a decent. I think that's why you might have actually enjoyed it because me and Adrup sat and watched it at home,
I
and we were
didn't
like,
actually. I'll get to it. I went to the cinema. Yes.
yeah, I sat and watched it on Amazon, and I was like,
Yeah.
I was also sort of holding my head and
Yeah.
like, mujhe nahi aa rahi hasi, and like, yeah, very WhatsApp jokes, very like
Yeah.
template jokes was there. But yeah,
Yeah.
there were a few people I've also discussed this with, and they're like, it was something that they enjoyed as well because they watched it in the theaters, like with their parents,
Hmm.
and like they were like, the crowd was pretty like light, and they were enjoying the film.
Hmm.
So yeah, like what worked for me in the film was definitely like me and Dhruv were discussing earlier was Varun Dhawan's character and Kiara Advani. Like yes, you can't find logic in comedy. Like it makes sense to have Anil Kapoor to
Yeah.
sort of lighten the situation and like to to be like, oh, you're getting divorced, even I'm getting divorced, like like
Yeah.
to make that sort of a joke. But it just like they didn't resolve the conflict. Like they just sort of let it go
Hmm.
in midair towards the end was what bothered me. I was
Yeah.
like, the least they could have ended it with was like Neetu Kapoor sort of standing up and being like, I think
Exactly.
I'll figure my life out by myself. Thanks.
Yeah.
Like that
Mm.
itself is enough feminism and enough to handle a film. Like you don't need Anil Kapoor to become the hero. Like he
Yeah.
was the antagonist and he doesn't have a spine. That was very clear. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think Manish Paul sort of saved the film to some extent
Hmm.
by his presence and just being like the guy who's
Goofy thing.
cracking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I see my thing with this is it struck me much more as like a Love Ranjan film, which is socially conscious, which is a very
Uh,
weird combination of things because Love Ranjan films are very misogynist in general.
yes. Yeah.
Right. So it struck me as that versus, and I know I keep on championing like Aditya Chopra and Karan Johar because I like their films, but
Uh,
Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna did the male chauvinism thing before in 2006. There is nothing new about I think what people are, I think that my biggest takeaway with the film is because I didn't laugh that much. There were a couple of, again, chuckles here and there, and I thought a couple of scenes were actually decently directed, which we'll get into about because we're going to go into spoilers and everything. Not that you can figure the movie out if you watch the trailer, or like if you see the poster even. But that's not like the plot isn't the main thing, I think. But in many ways, for me, it's like what it's doing is not especially groundbreaking in terms of progressive politics. I think that's my one big contention is that, and I think maybe this thing hasn't been done in this milieu, like this setting, like a Punjabi family setting. Maybe that's the new thing here. But even that, I feel the ending, and Aryan said he anticipated it won't land the ending, but if it doesn't land the ending, it fluffs it big time then, because then it undercuts its own progressiveness in a very distracting way, I think, and
in a confused manner.
in a confused
Because
way. And
you see that push and pull. I felt that we constantly keep seeing that push and pull between. I mean, this is one of those rare Bollywood mainstream films where I actually saw the potential of it turning into a full-fledged scenes from a marriage kind of a thing. Because it literally starts. I mean, I don't make that face. I try to justify. So it starts by having this high octane typical Bollywood opening, right? With the cheesy musical number and all. So you have the audience on board right from the get-go, right? And then it contradicts its high octane, it contradicts its own opening by showing how the life of the couple has become 2 years or whatever time frame that is into the marriage living in Canada. Okay. And even that car scene, I mean, there's this street beggar or whatever who's looking at the argument from outside. And from his point of view, it's just two people arguing in silence, as you know, because the dialogue, the sound disappears in that moment. And you just see them arguing like crazy. So in a way, it's showing that this is how normal marriage is. This is how it tends to be, right? After a while. And
I thought it was supposed to be an advert for India because Canada is super depressing.
I mean, the weather and all, but marriage doesn't have that either, right? And I think it's just a lot of people might just think that Anil Kapoor's character might be, he's one of those characters that could have been just played for comedic relief, right? But I think there's something really deep that the writers might have thought of while writing.
There's 3 writers or 4 writers, I think, just to like name.
Yeah, no wonder why it's just all.
You think that?
Yes.
Yeah. All of them are.
That's why I told her that it keeps going in circles and it just ends up being very confused. Because I think
you're supposed to be positive on this, Aryan. You're supposed to be the voice of positivity.
No, but I still feel that, you know what this character reminded me of?
You've already made a scenes from a marriage comparison. Go ahead. I don't think I can be more shocked.
No, this is more of an Indian reference.
Go ahead.
It reminded me of the character that Fahad Fazil played in Kumbhalgani Nights. Because, I mean, that character was handled and written way better, obviously. But in a lot of ways, Anil Kapoor's character encompassed those similar traits, right? He's this guy who can't stand on his own and he keeps on, you know, showing down his feelings and emotions. And it's just that he's a man-child, right? And it just makes sense how Kukku, who's played by Varun Dhawan, it would make sense how he's his son. And this film is literally, overall, it's in a way, in a lot of ways, this film is mainly about Kukku's awakening. Because there's literally so many scenes where you just see him waking up from a terrible nightmare, supposedly. And then he's constantly thrown into this push and pull between his wife and between his parents, and everyone's going through their own shit, right? And he's in the middle of it and he has to figure it out. And then there's his sister played by Prajakta Kohli, which I think it's a great debut.
Yeah, to some extent I agree as well, but apparently I don't know, someone gave me some inside gossip that Prajakta Kohli was not happy with her debut because she's like, "Ne scene kaat diye." She was like, "I'm to emerge a star out of this film." And I'm like,
how do you expect to be a star out of a film if you're playing like the fifth fiddle to like, there's 4 high profile actors in it. How do you expect to be a star out of that? But
but she does feature on some posters, right? some
Does
white
she?
posters.
I mean, she
Yeah.
is supposed to be the
She attracted
whatever.
a decent amount of audience, I think,
Yeah,
because she
yeah,
has
Definitely, yeah.
she's supposed to be the neutral person who's going to be affected by whichever side of the marriage, and if she wants to marry or doesn't want to marry, right? Like that's the whole thing
Even
with her.
that's why even her character I loved, and especially the way you talked about some of the scenes being directed and staged really well, right?
Hmm.
I think those two scenes, those two crucial scenes which take place in their living room
Hmm.
around the stairs. I
Hmm.
think those are really well shot, and the way they juxtapose two different scenarios
Hmm.
with Prajakta Kohli's character when she's
Hmm.
coming down and she finds out
The
that there's
stairs.
something wrong.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, got
that
it.
there's something wrong versus when she actually learns of what went down, and she comes to know that what her father has been thinking and doing all this time, right?
Yeah,
And then her fate from marriage and all is like
she
it's a
marries
bit
in the
shady.
end, right? Or she doesn't? I don't remember.
she
I
builds
think
a new
no, she doesn't. She
She
says
doesn't
that
marry.
she'll consider and she'll take her own time and first take
Okay,
some
okay,
time to
okay.
know herself and flesh out.
Okay, so it's ambiguous, like scenes from a
Yeah.
marriage. Uh, and no,
Didn't you
no,
get ऐसे थोड़े से vibes, especially during that big argument scene between okay, or otherwise I've just been watching too
no. I
many.
mean, you clearly liked it more than I did. So, no. I can see what you mean, and I can see what you like. There's the whole parallel also between the two couples, like as in how the men interact with each other at the top of the balcony, and how
Yeah.
the women then interact in the second half when they're having like wine at like some. So that contrast between how men communicate with each other, and then how women communicate with each other is like a nice whatever thing. And but then see, the problem is that when you are making like this kind of like melodrama comedy, right, almost like that, you end up saying in a way is that all women are good and all men are bad. You kind of rob each of them of their own complexities, because like, but then you actually, I think the film in general is a little bit more into exploring the men. Like the first half, I think, is too dedicated to the men, which is why I think it's like the first half to me was more diffused. The second half, I thought the drama was better, but the first half, I mean, comedy was a little bit more, I suppose. But I thought the direction, we mentioned how the direction for some scenes is good. I think some of the scenes are also very bad. So I think the scene where you're contrasting the wedding with the nightclub bachelorette party, I think is badly done. I think it focuses too much on the bachelorette party. It doesn't have like that. It doesn't cut in a way where you feel how different these
The
two
character is
environments are.
feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you have to show the musical number where someone is seducing Anil Kapoor.
And even that wasn't good. I mean, for a Dharma Production film, all the musical numbers
Yeah,
over here
yeah,
were
yeah,
extremely underwhelming.
yeah. So yeah, like I feel when I'm talking about it, I have more problems now. But no, say whatever else, other things you liked, I guess we can go first and then probably go to the whole. Yeah.
What I liked was, yeah, like you said, the parallels they drew between the terrace scene between the men and the women in the park.
Yeah.
And I liked also how they get divided, like Varun Dhawan and Kiara Advani from their own perspective of what they're seeing. Like Kiara Advani is like, you're not seeing how unhappy your mom's going to be from this marriage by
Yeah.
putting them together.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
Varun
yeah.
Dhawan
Yeah, that was lovely.
that I need to see my parents together. So that's like that was a very nice, like a nice parallel. Like they both are seeing it from a completely different point of view.
Yeah.
So like
Mm.
Kiara Advani is like, I think they should get divorced, but Varun Dhawan's
Mm.
like, no, they're my parents, they should stay together. Like like
Yeah.
my dad can't be by himself, kind of thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was
I just I extremely love. I still, the more I think about it, and I've not thought about this movie a lot, but now when we're just sitting and talking about this, the more we talk about it, the more I respect the way they juxtapose these characters together. The way they set up the character dynamics, that's brilliant, I feel. Especially for a mainstream Bollywood film. But having too many writers, I don't know what the problem was, or having too many priorities and being mixed up in this gender politics and all. I didn't even try to look at it from a gender politics point of view. And
Well,
even
I
the
think
first half,
I don't think
I
I think you have to though. Like no, and I don't think you should do it for every film, but I think this film
yeah,
kind of
this one.
invites it on itself also. Like
Hmm.
because it's like positioning itself as being a little bit whatever. We are breaking the
Yeah.
norm. I'm like, then break it. Like don't
Hmm.
dilly dally.
yeah. Yeah, you
But
can't be
it's
like
also very
he and
conscious, don't you feel?
sorry,
Because
I was just saying. Oh, sorry, Aryan, you can go ahead.
because in the first half, I think that for first half also worked extremely well for me because in fact the first half worked better for me, to be
Hmm.
honest. Apart from that wonderful scene at the riverfront between
Hmm.
Kiara Advani and Neetu Kapoor.
Hmm.
But the first half worked for me because the film drew this very careful line where you're not laughing at Anil Kapoor's character, you're not laughing
Hmm.
along with him. You know that you're laughing at him. And everything he
Ah.
does, especially in this going into the second act, you're
Hmm.
laughing at him and the way he carries that persona, the way he acts. I think it's a perfect cast,
Okay.
perfectly
I,
cast film.
I think you're laughing with him, or at least I was. At him was later a little bit, but I think again he's too charismatic. Maybe Anil Kapoor as a performer.
Hmm.
He's not as slimy. I don't know who you would cast to be more like dumb.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I don't know. I'm trying to think now. But yeah, like they also riff off a lot of Dil Dhadakne Do here for a weird reason. Like there's the whole incident with him having a heart attack, which turns out to be a gas attack,
Oh
which is
yeah.
like I was like, this is like absolutely straight out of Dil Dhadakne Do, and yeah, like I was just like a bit underwhelmed throughout, I guess. And but I was also let me confess that Aryan had raised expectations for me by saying that it's good. So I watched it afterwards and didn't think.
In a
What do you guys
theater.
think of the theater scene? I actually really like that. Like the when they go to watch Kalank, I thought that was one of the few jokes also that landed for me.
Oh, amazing! Yeah.
That was that was
I thought
funny.
that was a great dig at themselves for like how bad Kalank did, and then also the Kalank is him, the father turning out to be the Kalank in the family. So which is a good like parallel they drew there. And I've read a couple of reviews which were like dismissive of or didn't like Tiska Chopra's performance. I thought I enjoyed it a fair bit. Like I liked her like being super amped up and like whatever little. She cameoed even in Good News, right? I think Tiska Chopra, if I'm not wrong. If you guys have seen Good News, that is.
I've seen parts. I don't remember seeing her.
Okay. So yeah, it doesn't make a difference anyways. But yeah, it's I like that whole sequence. I enjoyed Varun Dhawan in like sort of exasperated mode more so than when he was shouting, which is
Hmm.
fine. Like I mean it's okay. Kiara Advani was the biggest surprise for me, as in I liked her. So
Film throughout with some logic, despite it being illogical in a few places.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
emerged like like she did her bit, I guess. Yeah.
yeah.
I, on the contrary, didn't like Tiska Chopra, but I was looking at
Okay.
it from a completely logical point of view. I was like,
Hmm.
I after the movie ended, I was like, I think I'm trying very hard to take a lot away from this film. I'm not, and I'm putting too much responsibility on the film, considering it's a comedy. Like,
Yeah.
like there's some leeways that a comedy gets to have, I guess, where you
Yeah, yeah,
can sort of
definitely.
and
Yeah, but
okay.
I
That's why the
feel
musical cues were there, na, to remind
Huh.
those
you that.
don't get me started on those, man. I mean, that's like my pet peeve, I think, but like, what is
And I
with
actually, there was this one scene where I actually laughed the entire beer in the office scene.
yes, that scene is good.
It was
That scene is
really
good.
different.
Yes, that scene is funny.
Everything about that entire
Yeah,
sequence.
with Manish Paul and Varun Dhawan,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And just the anticipation of opening
oh,
the Tijori and
yes.
even that character, one of those bouncers coming and then looking at it's so
Yeah,
slapstick and it's just
yeah.
yeah,
No, that scene was funny. I agree.
yeah,
I mean, but then there's a bunch of WhatsApp jokes
yeah.
littered throughout the film, which are not really
Especially, oh
funny.
my god, the ending scene at the airport, like New York, Old York. Oh my god, I was like,
I
yeah,
don't
I'm
remember.
already tuned out because of how you're stretching this beyond that code scene. Just
Yeah.
stop now.
Huh.
I mean, but they had to give him some redemption, which is the problem, I feel. Otherwise,
Yeah.
then you alienate the male audience. I mean, not all male audience, but like dad jokes, wala
Yeah.
dad audience. So yeah, that's I mean, but I think this, what I wanted to actually get to was also this, when I said that this reminds me of like a socially conscious Love Ranjan film, is that firstly, the Love Ranjan film, I'm not a fan of generally. If there's one scene I like in Pyar Ka Panchnama, which I think everyone is kind of likes, or maybe they've grown tired of, I don't know. That's the whole monologue that Kartik Aryan, that made Kartik Aryan famous, and he keeps on doing
Yeah.
it in every movie he features in. And this reminds me, have you seen De De Pyar De? Or am I the only one who went and saw that movie? This is with Ajay Devgan, Tabu, and that girl from, I forgot her name.
Rakul.
Yes, Rakul Preet Singh. Yes. This
I
is like the sister film or whatever, brother film of that, I feel. JugJugg Jeeyo, that is. Like, it kind of tries to be very moral about this stuff, but kind of muddies it itself without knowing it. And it's a comedy. I feel the issue with like these films is they need to maybe carry that weight or burden of being something bigger.
you can't address a social issue and not address it. Like you can't be like, we are going to address something and then leave it in the end. I'm like, no, पर ये तो comedy है. Like,
Exactly.
ऐसे
Yeah.
होते हैं.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the burden, and I think every film has that burden. No, now, like which film I can't think of. I mean, unless you're Dhamal, whatever. What was the third Dhamal? Total Dhamal, or what was it? We probably needed Sanjeev here to like illuminate us on the awesomeness of that movie because he's seen everything. But I haven't seen Total Dhamal.
Loved Dhamal. Like Dhamal
I
1 was
love
I
Dhamal.
love the first Dhamal.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was
same.
Total
Amazing.
Dhamal was.
Total Dhamal is the third one.
Oh no, that's
That's the one with the
Double
bear
Dhamal.
and Madhuri Dixit. I mean,
Oh,
not
yeah, right.
them together in one frame, but like they are in the film, in like similar capacity, I suppose. But no, like that. Either you have that film, which is basically for kids, right? And it's fine. Like if it's a good kids film, it's a good kids film. But it's kind of positioned to adults also, which is kind of ridiculous. But whatever. But then you have like the small town comedy, which is social message mixed with comedy, right? That's the whole-
80% of Bollywood films.
yeah, that's the whole Ayushman, Rajkumar Rao, and Bhumi Pednekar have like a stamp on that genre. Like they are like the king and queen of that brand, right?
Don't worry, Dhruv. I'm sure both of our trust and faith in Bollywood will be restored on August 11th.
With Raksha Bandhan.
Yeah. We are giving the audience and our listeners one more reason to tune out. And we love Anand.
Okay, I'll actually ask Sudeshna. Sudeshna, what did you think of Atrangi Re?
Oh, yeah.
If you watched it.
I watched it. It was very confusing because they
Yeah.
addressed childhood trauma. Again, they addressed it, but they didn't address it. I'm like, आधी बात ये क्यों छोड़ देते हो यार? क्या बता? I don't understand what research they're doing. Like Wikipedia.
I'll elaborate on what magical realism means. Okay. No,
Please.
I do that some other
Yeah,
time.
I'll forward you the essay Aryan has on it because Aryan, me, and Sanjeet really like that film. Not Aryan really likes it. I like it, and Sanjeet also likes it. So,
I
no,
liked it. It was a good
Yeah.
attempt. Definitely well portrayed. Sara Ali Khan did a job very
yeah,
well.
which is the bigger surprise I think because I saw in Love Aajkal and I tuned out. I was like, "ये हो गया career खत्म."
What the hell is going on? Huh? चल क्या रहा है तुम्हारे stupid bloody mind में?
Anyways, like what other stuff? This is like a broader question before we transition to like Chupke Chupke because that also links to comedy, of course. But like, what do you guys find funny? Like, I'm just going to ask you that because I think I don't find many things funny in films. What do you guys find funny in general? Like, is there like a particular funny film you watched recently outside Bollywood also?
For me, I actually made a list because I knew you'll ask me, and I didn't want to sound very vague and be like, I like this also. But I
Yeah.
was like, I like Nelson's Doctor a lot.
Okay.
Nelson is a brilliant director,
Hmm.
and he made Doctor. It's a dark comedy.
Hmm.
I was in tears. Like it was hilarious because
Hmm.
he took like the premise of a kidnapping and
Yeah.
kidnapping a child, and
Yeah.
he like it's basically like a kidnapping that's happened in the family, and they want to track how they kidnapped the child. So they're like, let's kidnap another girl and see the procedure.
Oh, okay. That
Backtrack it.
sounds something I'd like. Yeah. Yeah.
It was intelligently written, and the discussion, it's a family who's kidnapping, so they're not familiar with crime. So
Got it.
अभी क्या करना है? Like next, what shall we do? Like the whole
Yeah.
family just had this meeting in the living room. Like, what are we supposed to do next? So
Yeah,
I found
got
that hilarious. The whole
Yeah.
setting was hilarious for me. And
Yeah.
then in general, all Priyadarshan films work for me just fine. Like Hera
Hmm.
Fairy, Fair Started.
Hmm.
I'm not sure he made Hera Fairy, but Chup Chupke worked
Chup
really well for me.
Chupke is, yes, yeah,
Yeah.
that's him. Then I was actually making a list of his films. De Danadan is there, Hangama is there, Garam Masala, which is one of I really laugh at that film, but it is probably very problematic if you look at it from today's context. But
In today's point of view,
yes.
yes, but I did laugh as well.
Yes,
I'm
but I did really laugh whenever I watched it. This is basically prime Akshay Kumar also, by the way, like just to flag him up when he's actually good, which is
Flag
sadly
him
not
up,
the case
okay.
now. But
Is that a pun?
oh God, I don't even notice it when I said flag him up. Sorry.
He has flagged his Twitter up, by the way, apparently. Okay,
Yes.
moving on.
I wrote unsaffronized Akshay Kumar as one of my favorite personalities right now.
Yeah, definitely. Extremely charismatic, and even his comic timing is
Absolutely
perfect, yeah.
terrific. Yeah.
And that's why when I watched Bhool Bhulaiya was when I actually realized the value of him. When I watched Bhool Bhulaiya, I was like, it's not working at all. Like the guy who's cracking the jokes is just as important as the joke. Like that is
Oh yeah,
that's
totally.
when-
Like totally. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, like if the joke's not landing or like the punchline's not there, like it's gone. Like the gone, the scene's gone. Yeah. So for me, Bhool Bhulaiya 1 also was hilarious. And 2 was like not working so much, but I did like to some extent but it's not something that I will remember or go and rewatch for sure. Like it was just a one-time watch maybe. And Sridevi, I think Sridevi was hilarious in her time. For me, she works. It will be like when I'm having a bad day, I'll sit and watch Chalbaz and I'll watch Mr. India. Like that is something that will always lighten me.
Yeah.
I think great comic timing as well.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was that film that Sridevi and Rekha did?
Sridevi and Rekha.
I can't remember the name. I think the Rekha was definitely there.
Let me check. Until then, Aryan, you elaborate on your
talking
funniness.
of dark comedy, recently I watched On the Count of Three, and I think it's a really solid film. So I like films that are really, witty but not so quirky that it overwhelms you with your. I mean, I know Dhruv would have things to say on that, but yeah. And in terms of comedy films,
I don't know what you're
general,
talking about.
because
on
quirky
quirk, oh yeah,
good films,
quirk in general, oh yeah. I have a big issue, yeah. Anyways,
and most comedic films, like I try to look at them from a very socio-political point of view, but also in a way that I understand that the sensitivities that we are now surrounded by didn't quite exist back in the 80s or 90s, right? So I don't get this entire discourse of, this film is problematic and all. Like it came out in the 80s and 90s, right? So that's why I love Priyadarshan films and Hrishikesh Mukherjee films, and I think it perfectly balances that thread of, not crossing the line of being so quirky that it overwhelms you with the sweetness. And yet it's very self-aware. And I think during that time, during the entire 70s time, the way the socio-political landscape of the country looked like, I think it was very important for a filmmaker like that to make such self-aware, low-stakes drama and comedy films. Right. So moving on to Chupke Chupke, if that's...
Oh, you're nicely skipping over my preference is nice, Aryan. I'm basically going to be a grump.
You'll be like, I won't like A24 quirky films, otherwise anything.
I like A24 a lot. I just don't like obnoxiously quirky, which is, I don't know what to term, I don't know which film encapsulates that. A Swiss Army Man is it enrages me almost. It's so quirky that I get absolutely boggled out of my mind. But
did you like Booksmart?
Yeah, I enjoyed Booksmart, but that wasn't quirky. It wasn't annoyingly quirky.
That entire sequence is the definition of quirky. That when they transform themselves into spoons and all.
But one sequence was there. No, it wasn't. The whole thing wasn't about someone's dead corpse farting or whatever. Whatever. It's I understand people like it. I'm just saying it's not my thing. But I literally was sitting before we recorded to list the types of films I find funny, because I was like, maybe it's just my problem that I don't find stuff funny in general, right? But I came to the conclusion that I have a personal distaste for stand-up comedy, gross out comedy, and wink wink snark, which is basically Deadpool styled stuff. Now, it's maybe like it rubs me the wrong way, basically that. I'm kind of ambivalent towards slapstick and parody, but like sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't. Situational comedy, I'm generally fine with. Black comedy, I'm definitely there for. Black comedy, absurd comedy, witty, whatever, satire also. And yeah, but then I was like listing the films which I found funny, and some of them are embarrassing admissions, which I did find very funny. Like I know some of them will be like, oh, how can you find this funny? So I'll let those embarrassing ones out rather than the normal ones. The embarrassing ones are Tismar Khan by Farah Khan. Farah Khan in general I find funny. So like that's a admission in general. I find most of the stuff that Kejo does funny. Like in like what his films aren't comedies, but the comedic elements work for me generally, except
It's
for the
more like
S&M.
situational
Yeah,
comedy.
except for the S&M bit in Gang, which is very ill-placed. And then there's what else was there? Oh, Rajkumar Hirani, I think is great at
Oh yeah,
at
definitely.
doing it. And that was not an embarrassing one. That was a normal one, I think. And yeah, and then the embarrassing ones are like Houseful, I guess, a little bit, Houseful 2, a little bit. But both of them have a good Akshay Kumar, I think, which carries a lot of them for me. One of the worst comedic actors, I think, is John Abraham, who's in Houseful 2. If you want to see a bad performance, a bad comedic performance, that's like to look out for.
Even Sunil Shetty, I don't find funny at
Strange,
all.
right? Like he's especially when you watch something like Hera Fairy, and it
Yeah.
feels he's the most.
But Hera Fairy mein,
he's
he's
the
like,
most
it's
straight
still,
man, right?
yeah, it still
Yeah.
gives a nice touch, you know, having
Yeah.
those contrary
Yeah.
personalities going back and forth.
Yeah.
But some of the other comedy films that he's done, oh my God.
Very shrill, no, I think the voice. I'm
Yeah.
not, and I love Shah Rukh, but I'm not the biggest Shah Rukh as a comedian fan or comic fan.
Me neither.
Chennai Express, I really like 3 sequences in it, which are the rhyming joke. Basically, they sing to each other in rhymes, and I think that kind of stuff makes me laugh. So whatever, but like in that also, Deepika Padukone kind of saves the whole comedic angle more so than him. And
I don't find Rohit Shetty films funny at all. I don't know why.
yeah,
I've never found them funny.
I was about to mention I find his work funny.
I liked Singham, the first one, and kind of enjoyed Returns, especially the entire highway sequence and the absurd ending. But none of his other films.
Okay.
Wow,
remember too. I think one of the worst ones is Dilwale, and that's like
Dilwale also. Even Happy New Year.
Happy New Year is Farah Khan, not Rohit Shetty. Yeah, that's not very good. Yes, I will agree, but it's borderline funny sometimes. Like her filmography after Main Hoon Na, we'll discuss Farah Khan sometime. She's, I think, awesome. Until Tismar Khan, like Main Hoon Na and Om Shanti Om, I think, are awesome.
Yeah,
Om Shanti Om is nice. Yeah, I only love that. And oh my God, De Dhanatan. And Bhagam Bhag 2.
Bhagam Bhag 2. As in like, as in Bhagam Bhag 2, as in like that also. There's no 2, I think, right?
No.
Yeah, that was
I wish.
No. Please don't wish.
Bhagam Bhag I really enjoy, man.
The first one I like.
Used to watch.
Priyadarshan only, right?
Bhagam Bhag is Priyadarshan.
Govinda, yes, Govinda in that, and Govinda in general. I watched so many of his 90s like essay on TV on Set Max. David Dhawan, before he basically made Jodhwa 2 and decided to remove all the goodwill from. Yes, that reminds me, I actually find Varun Dhawan sometimes funny. Like I think he has the ability to make you laugh. And the last person I'll flag up before we move on to Chupke Chupke is these are 2 filmmakers, and they kind of traffic more in like absurd black comedies. Abhishek Chaubey and Vishal Bhardwaj. Ishqiya films written by Vishal Bhardwaj, directed by Abhishek Chaubey, have like a very great sense of humor, I think. And I'm a fan of Matru Ki Bijli. I know it's a very divisive film.
Oh yeah, I love that.
it's a very divisive film, I know that. But and Pataka also I like, which is again Vishal Bhardwaj. So like I like that style of comedy more so than I feel. I don't
My
know.
dad and I just recently talked about Matru Ki Bijli Ka Mandula after watching Hyder, and we just talked about the range. It was directed
Oh
by
yeah,
Bharatwaj, right?
yeah. Everything
Yeah.
Bhardwaj, directed, written, scored. That's the whole
Yeah, yeah.
Bhardwaj package, I guess he gives right every time. Anyways, from
Did you guys
Bhardwaj
watch?
to
Did
go.
you? Sorry, go on.
No. Go ahead. Now you've broken the transition. We'll find another one.
अरे मेरा वो डाल देना बहुत
क्या
अच्छा था
क्या
पुराना वाला transition.
Oh yeah,
I
that's true.
was
I never realized
asking,
it. Yeah,
yeah, I was asking, did you guys watch Kajali?
I watch Kajulina.
I love that kind of humor as well.
That's if you're
Dark
into
in a
like
way.
Wes Anderson-y style, I feel that's slightly like that.
Yeah.
Kajulina is by Miranda July, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very
2020.
again, it's a bit divisive though. I think some people really can't get with that humor. I really liked it, to be honest. So
I love it. Yeah.
yeah. Not a Bollywood comedy though, guys. So we are shifting attention back to Bollywood, and this is my transition.
तुम्हें अपने दिल की बात करने का कोई हक नहीं। मत भूलो कि तुम इस ड्रामे में सिर्फ एक एक्टर हो और वही करोगे जो डायरेक्टर कहेगा। क्यों परिमल? हाँ, एक्टर क्या है? डायरेक्टर के हाथ के कट पुतले। एक्टिंग मैं नहीं जानता। एक्टिंग आप लोग करो, मैं तो उसे सब कुछ जाके बता दूंगा। हाँ, सब कुछ बता दूंगा। तुम कौन हो? मैं कौन हूँ? और आप भी कौन है? मैं कौन हूँ? अरे भाई, मैं तो प्रशांति हूँ। तो बताने में क्या है? बताने में क्या है? फॉर सेफ्टी सेक मैं तो वो भी बता दूंगा। हाँ, कुमार, क्लाइमेक्स पे पहुंचाकर ड्रामे की छुट्टी मत कराओ।
A few episodes back, while discussing about some movie, Sharma Ji Namkeen. So in that episode, Sanjeet and I agreed on a lot of things because he was the one to point this out of how Sharma Ji Namkeen reminded him of the way Hrishikesh Mukherjee used to make films back in the 70s. You know that there's nothing world changing or heartbreaking or anything high stakes going to happen by the end of the movie, right? You know that all the characters' lives would probably remain the same. They would go back to their true selves, and so would we, right?
Yeah.
And you watch these films, extremely light-hearted films, and you know what they are. And the director knows what he's making and what he's getting into. I think it's extremely rare for filmmakers to make these films, these kinds of films in this day and age, because this is one of the points that I noted down, that you watch films like JugJugg Jeeyo, right, in 2022, and majority of the films that you watch, Bollywood or non-Bollywood, you're always trying to trash it in a way. That's how the discourse is. You either love it, the typical Gehriya discourse,
Twitter.
right? The Atrangi Ray discourse.
What
Yeah. You
stage
either
of
love it
living
or
are
you're
you in?
just
Gehraiya also you brought into this episode.
Yeah, but that's how it is, right? You're either like you're just praising the film for the social and political correctness that it went to, or else you're just trashing it because of how unsensitive it was, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's very rare for films to pass that barrier of those sensitivities of today.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's very important to look back at some of these films that came back during that period of time, because if you look at the 70s, you wouldn't even have this excuse ki back then India was going through very stable and cooperative times.
Yeah.
And that's what brings me to Chupke Chupke, because it came out in the same year as Sholay did. And Sholay went through difficult post-production issues and all, right? The directors and makers had to change its ending to serve a proper, more optimistic approach. Okay, because of the declared emergency and the state of India at the time. And in the same year, you have Hrishikesh Mukherjee, who makes a film with like two of the lead actors from that same film, from the former film. And here's a film that you can just tune into and you can just go with your entire family and just sit and have a blast.
Yeah.
That's why if you look at Chupke Chupke, I think retrospectively it's an extremely important film because it almost makes you feel nostalgic because you know that these kinds of films are never going to be made again.
You think
And
so?
I think
think
even
no, no,
Sharmaji
go ahead.
Namkeen was a product of what had happened, okay, because of the unfortunate passing of Rishi Kapoor, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we are going to see more of those films.
I agree with Aryan on this because when
Hmm.
I was watching JugJugg Jeeyo, I was
Hmm.
sort of nitpicking and I was like, oh, why is this like this? Or why is
Hmm.
this character not working for me? So,
Hmm.
but when I was watching Chupke Chupke, it was very light. Like it was almost like the way the film was made was how I was responding to the film as well. Like they're
Yeah.
not carrying any baggage. There's no social commentary happening. It's
Yeah.
just like characters messing around with each other kind
Yeah.
of thing. Yes, it was maybe not it was not like humor that was hitting home for me or like where I was
Hmm.
falling off my chair and laughing. But
Yeah.
yes, I would say it did end with a smile on my face. And like I do miss watching a family comedy where I don't have to take anything away, but
Yeah.
just something that lightens me up.
Uh,
And I feel like it's hard these days, especially with social
yeah.
messages sort of coming out of every film and like everything rubs people the wrong way. And people are always like, oh, why did this happen? So like
Hmm.
you have to tread more carefully, I think, when you're making comedies in today's day and age
Yeah.
than
Yeah, I think that correctness is required right nowadays, just to be like, oh, let's not step the mark in the wrong way or whatever. No, Aryan
yeah.
was saying that this like stuff like this isn't being made. I mean, Sharma Ji Namkeen, of course, was made abhi, but like I could think of something like Shujit Sarkar and Juhi Chaturvedi have moved away a little bit from that zone. Like they've gone like October and sort of Gulabo Sitabo actually is not a departure from that style. I feel there's little bit commentary in it, but that's not the main aim. The main aim is to provide a comedy, I feel, or
Yeah.
like drama comedy, whatever. But I feel
Mm.
something like Piku is the quintessential
Oh
shining
yeah.
example of that, where you have comedy and by the end of it you feel like you've come away with something. I think
Yeah.
my problem with Chupke Chupke is that I didn't feel I came away with anything.
Yeah.
I think my problem is that it's a bit too low stakes. Like for me, like I was just like I understood what they were going for, and they kept on going for it. And I thought this would make a great 1 hour 20-minute film.
It,
And it goes, and I was like, I get the joke. Can we move somewhere else? Like I know we have 4 situations or 5 situations, but I just wanted it to go at least here or there somewhere. And I think, see, it's a contradictory thing, right? Because on the one hand, I love the fact that it's so low stakes in a way, right? It's like it's so refreshing to see the couple basically being like, we need to spice our lives up almost, and we are going to play act just to annoy, firstly to prove that Jijaji is not is not as smart as he thinks he is, and I think that's like the crux of the story, and then everything that follows is just accumulation of that. And like I was surprised at how much, at least in the first hour, like 20 minutes even, the film kind of managed to coast through. Like there were some jokes. I think the way the jokes were also planted were good. I like running gags in films, and this has like very much, it's filled with running gags. And it has a lot of repetition of those gags also, which I think interesting. Like I particularly chuckled at the sort of English, Hindi, English dichotomy, like the juggling between those and sort of making confusion out of that and all that. And but it just like again, I was like, I get it. And and I know I shouldn't be asking that question because it's not a film that wants to ask that question, but I was a bit like, yeah, like I came away with less of a smile and more of a shrug, which I think is, yeah, which I think is my little bit of a problem. But I totally get what you mean, Aryan, and I totally get what the appeal of this sort of film. And I think I would rather take this than, or much rather take this than the JugJugg Jeeyo template, for me at least, because it also feels sincere. And I feel this is a comparison that struck me after I ended this film, was that Chupke Chupke is like like wearing a large comfy t-shirt, whereas JugJugg Jeeyo is like wearing a tightly stitched t-shirt because it's like so filled with the need to like appeal
Deliver
to
on
your
these social issues
sensibility and
and
social
sensitives.
issue and this and that
Yeah.
and whatever. I was like, I like comfortable stuff more so I'm like, yeah. But yeah, go ahead. I mean, I know I'm also the person, and this is another revelation. I'm not a fan of Janavi Toyar also, so sorry, don't find
Oh
it funny.
God.
Sorry, don't find it funny, which is the big problem I think I have with some of the comedies is I don't laugh as much, which is
Do you guys like Andaz Apna Apna? This is a very
Yeah,
guy thing you do.
I've not seen
indeed,
it.
I do.
I've not seen it.
All the boys I've
I
asked
like
are like,
Andhra
yes.
Sapna.
But I saw the first scene and I was like, I can see why this will not age with me. I was like, I know ki comedy for me is like just like I don't know if it'll work. Like that was my first reaction, but I've not seen the whole thing. But
I think I love Ishq better than Andhra Sapna.
Ishq has all the drama. I've seen Ishq. I like Ishq also. Or I remember liking it at least. It's very, but
Andhra
it's very
Sapna is
serious
like
also though.
dumb. But that's I like.
Ishq was
I
like
love
full
that
melodrama
scene.
though, no? Like it's like some
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they
Towards
get
its
with each
end.
other's girlfriends and like some very weird stuff happens in that
When I
movie.
say contract marriage, they're like, you can't,
Yes,
like,
yes.
all that is there. You have to sign a contract. I was like, oh, okay, you
Yes,
can do
yes,
that.
yes, yes. Yeah. No, but no,
The
but say
biggest
more.
problem that I have, the biggest problem that I have with Chupke Chupke is the casting of Amitabh Bachchan. I mean, I understand that he was like getting extremely famous and you have to star him alongside Dharmendra and all, but
Mm,
I think the film just de-escalates very bad
yeah.
after he's like he
After he
takes
After
the
they two
industry.
run away,
Yeah,
Sharmila Tagore and Dharmendra. I actually even found
yeah.
Dharmendra a little too distracting, but then I've
No,
not
I
seen much
loved him.
Dharmendra.
I love the first entire hour.
Oh,
That for me is like amazing.
I was
After
a
that, I
bigger,
was like,
I was a bigger fan of I mean, I'm a big fan of Sharmila Tagore in general. I think she's like
oh yeah.
incredibly graceful on screen, and I think she does a great job of balancing Dharmendra's overpitched
Definitely.
performance. And my favorite performance was Om Prakash's though, who plays Raghavendra Sharma, the brother in like the brother-in-law. They are annoying him, and he's always annoyed. And then there's one dialogue I genuinely laughed out loud at when he's like sitting at the outside his house under like an umbrella, and he's like आप इतना दुखी क्यों बैठे हैं?" Then he's basically like क्या यहाँ पे बैठ के बैंड बजाऊं मैं? And I was just like that exasperation and that like really he's annoyed so much throughout the film. I was like, this is funny. Like I find that very funny for some reason. So yeah, maybe I like grumpy characters because I'm grumpy. So we'll chalk that up to that.
Which
But
Hrishikesh Mukherjee film do you guys like love the most? What's your
I've not
favorite
seen
one?
many. I think
I've
this is
not
the
seen many.
first one I've seen.
My introduction to his film.
Have
Yeah,
you watched Golmaal?
I've
Maybe
not watched.
that's
I
why. I
watched
think
Gol
maybe that's
Bachchan.
why. Okay, damn. I hated that movie.
Of course you do.
I
It's
think you know
directed by
what?
Rohit Shetty.
Oh yeah, I didn't even know that, but I could tell.
Okay. It's a
You know
remake,
what
right?
film I love?
Hmm.
Kabhi Ha Kabhi Na. I know we
But
are like skipping from mid 70s
Oh,
to
yes.
mid 90s.
Oh, yeah.
but
That
is
was a
that
nice.
comedy or is that more
It
drama?
is, yeah, it is a coming of age comedy.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, give more love to Shah Rukh Khan films, Aryan. I'm all for it. Anyways, any more thoughts on Chupke Chupke? We've just like kind of breezed past it, like the film breezes past us.
That's the best thing about this movie. I think that's the best
Hmm.
compliment I could give to films, Hrishikesh Mukherjee films in general, but especially Chupke Chupke and Golmaal. That these are the kinds of films that you could just tune into during a summer evening while you're just
Yeah,
sitting with your family and chilling, and you let these films breeze over you, right?
yeah.
And this also, I think it's an important exercise to ask ourselves and
It's well
mull
made
over
also,
this
to be
question.
honest. Like just to like interject, it's well made, like in terms of
Yeah,
just
yeah.
using the
I
whole
think it's not.
flowers. Like I think there's the whole flower thing, right? I mean, I like the whole joke about him being a botanist and everyone saying that he's a Khas Puska
Yeah, yeah,
doctor. And
Fuska, doctor,
yes,
whatever.
and then there's the when they have their romance, they actually have it around the garden with all the flowers and all that. Like there's one song which happens later on. So that was like that interesting
Mhm.
parallel. And then
After talking about these two films, especially the latter one, I think it's an important exercise to just think over this question that what does clean comedy mean?
hmm,
Because you describe films like these, like from an Indian audience, general audience point of view, they would say they love it because it's clean comedy. What do you think that means in today's, like in
what's clean
2022?
comedy? Sharma ji
Yeah.
Namkeen.
See,
Yeah. Sharma Ji Namkeen's clean, but
It's-
Piku is also clean comedy despite being about shit.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is clean
It's-
comedy. So
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's pointing fingers at any aspect in society or
Yeah.
like derogatory
Mm.
towards any aspect of society.
Yeah.
Like it just sort of passes the tunnel
yeah,
successfully.
life as it is sort of like that, and then it's basically you. And these films have a lot to draw upon by the way they are. Like there's if one wants to like dig into Chupke Chupke, you can find a lot of like critique of social norms and all that. It's just
Yeah.
not like waving it in your face and like stopping itself to like explore them. It's done through comedy, it's done through the drama, it's done more organically, I suppose, than you would have today. I think like today you would have more of a yeah, the film basically stops now, right? Just to like give their PSA of like what one should feel, what is correct and what is wrong. That moral obligation is maybe wasn't there, maybe wasn't needed then. This was, as you said, it released during that time, and a lot of time it was, it was a good escapism, at least for the common. I mean, not everyone is going to sit like us and like analyze films, right? Like most people won't, and most people will anyways be annoyed by how much we analyze. So, so yeah, no, I think those are like important things, and I mean, clean comedy. I'm trying to think of more. I don't know. I don't think Priyadarshan films were clean comedies. Also, I never felt them as being. They always had like a very. They had some of that gross out underpinning to it. I mean, the modern day, like I noted this. The adult comedy is like the absolute barrel, like the bottom of the barrel stuff.
Yeah.
Is like, except for Delhi Belly, which is pretty decent, pretty good, I think, still. Or does it not hold up? I'm not sure. I watched it a while back.
Delhi Valley is more of a black comedy also.
That's
right?
true.
Or dark.
That's true.
Ah,
Yes,
so I think
definitely.
you-
Definitely.
yeah.
No, I was thinking more Masti, which is like,
Oh,
Kya Cool
Masti.
Hai Hum, which is I saw the
Grand-
third one, and then I was like Grand Masti, and then Total Masti. I don't know what all Masti are from. But yeah, those are like the bottom of the
Yeah.
I don't think
Definitely.
they even like go for like scripts and all. It's just like a bunch of skits thrown together.
Like improvise, like improv
Basically.
without
Yeah,
costume
yeah.
bana
But
ke.
do you guys like American comedies as well? But like I think I'm also a bit averse to studio American comedies now. Like I don't think I look forward to Seth Rogen films
Yeah.
or like
No,
Same.
yeah. Same.
it's just maybe
same.
it's played out. Maybe it's just like gone through its phase of life.
I only like now when it comes to American comedy, I'll only watch Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig.
You've basically graduated to auteur comedy. or
Yeah,
something.
but now even he's making marriage story. So matlab,
Heartbreak and
yeah.
there's comedy in it. Dora,
Yeah.
Lenny, and whatever the other characters.
Mm.
But there's other Wes Anderson is there. He's always good, I feel.
But he's like quitting, right? I think. No, no. Sorry. Woody Allen just announced, right, that he's.
Of course he's quitting. Like no one will
Yeah.
give him a film to make. Why will he not?
Yeah.
He probably should quit also. It's fine. He's made a lot of films.
Two films per year, right? On average.
One film per year for the past
That's okay.
whatever. Until he got called out by authorities in church. So yes. But no, I'm trying.
How
to
much
think
would
of-
you guys like to see a film like this, like films like Chupke Chupke? Would you, because people keep comparing the socio-political landscape of the 70s to the current climate, right? And do you think that filmmakers have this obligation of making? I mean, they certainly feel obliged to make propaganda nowadays, but do you think the same should apply for making these extremely breezy and self-aware films? Do you think we would get more of these?
I mean, you will have to get something. These are the ones which won't object to the government, so you will probably end up with a lot of them. I just hope they are made by good filmmakers who can sneak in whatever they are trying to say. Like again, whenever you have restrictions, you sneak in whatever you want to say in a way.
माया तुम्हारी उम्र ही क्या थी? Can you relax, Dad? अब अनाथ भूखे बच्चों के लिए चंदा इकट्ठा करने 5-star होटल में 6-course dinner कौन रखेगा?
I feel I'm the least qualified to speak about comedy, to be very honest, because I think I'd laugh at the least amount of stuff. I always go back to Sarabhai versus Sarabhai because that's the stuff I laugh the most at. So,
Oh my god, same.
Yeah, even I love Sarabhai.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
Or Tarak Mehta, I mean.
you are
Okay.
the Tarak Mehta fan, sir. I only get Tarak Mehta memes from you. But Sarah bhai, that reminds me, the other personality I wanted to flag up a little bit is Satish Shah.
Sadiq.
Oh yeah, Satish
He was
Kaushik.
fantastic, even in Farah Khan
Yeah.
films, especially Main Hoon Na. He is absolutely.
You don't like him in Jana Bhi Do Yaro.
He's the dead body, no?
Even Amrish Puri, no, even Om Puri, I love when he does comedy.
Nasiruddin Shah is also there. Aaron Puri. I mean, I think those actors are adept at everything, so that's why I didn't flag them up. Like even Irfan Khan, I think Irfan was one of the great
Best.
comedians who could traverse so many things. I hate Thank You by Anis Bazmi, but he is hilarious in that movie, as in Irfan is. And then you have him doing Piku, of course, and then other forms of comedy.
Karwa.
Karwa, yeah, he's doing different types of comedy there. Then yeah, again, Irfan can have like 5 episodes in which you discuss 5 different types of his performances
Yeah.
of films. He's just he was and still remains like one of the best sort of people we've had, I think. But we veered off somewhere else. Can you bring me on track, people?
What about someone like Kishore Kumar? Do you think his comedy works? For me, when I watched Chupke Chupke, I was like, I actually enjoyed Kishore Kumar's, which was another decade. It was the 1960s. But
Yeah.
I felt like Chalti Ka Naam Gaadi and all was funnier because there's more activity. Like I realized that having some physical activity while you're doing comedy is also very important. Like Chupke
Yeah.
Chupke mein everyone are just sitting and telling their dialogues.
It's much
As if
more
I'm
dialogue driven, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's not much action happening. So for a viewer, it's almost like like the plot itself looks very stretched because it's just one gag
Yeah.
that they're
It
sort
is.
of playing up with it. Huh.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've not seen much much or any, I should say actually, Kishore Kumar. So I think, but you're right. I think the whole visual element, I also probably prefer a combination of the two at play.
It must be dialogue. You need to be doing something on the screen for it to.
I know you really liked Everything Everywhere All at Once, right? So I know we talked about that. So that has a mix of both, I think.
But that's too much movement and
That's
stimuli.
too much for
That's
me.
the problem.
But it is a combination of both, I think. Like it's giving you sort of the two forms together. I mean, Edgar Wright we've discussed before, so he's always there, I think, at the top
Oh
of his
yeah.
game.
Hey, how did we not?
Because it's
We're
a
just so traumatized with that
Hindi film
episode and
episode.
recording.
It's about Hindi comedy, not about British comedy. Otherwise, I would have gone off on one. I find British comedy funny quite a bit. So
yeah, British comedy is like the best.
Yes, very dry sense of humor.
Yeah, that or either you get like that's true. I know some people who really don't like British comedy, right? So it's like a double-edged sort of thing where you either appeals or doesn't appeal. I mean, some people find Stanley Kubrick's things funny, which I mean, best of luck. I mean, Doctor Strangelove is a great film, but it's not really laugh out loud funny for me at least. So, but yeah, I'm not dissing it, Aryan. I'm not dissing it. I love the film. I've made enough revelations again today, so I don't want to like more drown my credit.
Clockwork Orange is supposed to be like supposed to be
very
funny,
jet black comedy.
Yeah.
Black comedy, huh?
I mean, if you want to term it, I always see his work as like all his work never strikes me as comedic. He's too like cold and detached. Not a bad thing. I don't mind that type of films. But yeah,
what do you like, Dhruv?
Cold, detached.
That's
yes, that's my aesthetic. Like that's the aesthetic I like.
That's the takeaway.
Yeah. From this episode about comedy, the takeaway is that that I like dark and aesthetic films. But anyways, I didn't like Spencer. Actually, whatever. It's fine. We moved somewhere else. Anything else, guys, to say about
pandemic? The equation or the dynamic has changed with comedy. Like, do you think people are looking to laugh? Because I feel like people are not turning up at the theaters, and comedy needs to be enjoyed with people. Like, you can't sit at your house. Like, it won't land when you're just watching it as an individual.
Oh,
but
definitely.
when someone or laughing next to you, I think that also helps in
that reminded me actually of a great thing. One of your cinema going experiences, memorable cinema going experiences, is sitting in a hall and feeling like an alien has arrived into like a cinema hall is while watching Houseful 3, where everyone in the cinema was laughing. And I was sitting there and thinking existentially about what is wrong with me and what is wrong with the state of Hindi cinema. Who is wrong here? And I will forever remember that moment. So yes, it benefits being in a cinema while watching comedy if you want to have existential crisis also. But otherwise, also I agree. A lot of times when people laugh, you laugh. Or at least for me. Sometimes that makes a big difference. So in JugJugg Jeeyo,
I
actually, I
think
probably laughed more because I went with a cousin who was laughing like anything. So another like example of how different like tastes and preferences for comedy can be, which is not a dig at people who like this, just to say. Yeah.
I think a lot of indie comedies and a lot of comedy films that are trying to do something different these days don't seem to work because a lot of major studios and the films that are being churned out by those big giant studios are following this Marvel type of comedic template, which is why I think there seems to be a severe vacuum that's being created of filmmakers need to make good comedies that are different from yeah.
There's the whole snarky banter, everything's a joke formula, right? I think which alienates me a lot because then I'm like, I
Definitely,
need
yeah.
some drama. Like if everything is a joke, then what will I consider serious? Like I need some seriousness in some senses, unless it's like a farce. Like Coen brothers are great at doing farces sometimes, or like doing black comedy or whatever. They are one of my favorites at least. So, so yeah, I mean, it's just every
It's a
episode. I
preference.
think every episode I think we say that we are in a horrible state of like industry and whatever practice. Give me something optimistic, Aryan.
Raksha
I said optimistic, not something that'll lose us.
I saw the trailer and I'm like, yes, four sisters, we have to get married. It sounds like a lot of work.
It's going to release on Raksha Bandhan. That's the trick, I suppose. So, but it's releasing with Lal Singh Chadda. So
I still don't think that Lal Singh Chaddha will do like crazy numbers. I don't
I'm
know.
surprised.
I
I
have this
think it's
feeling.
going to do a lot of money just because that story is so like universal and like so schmaltzy. I'm not a fan of Forrest Gump. So yeah.
But I think people will turn up with the curiosity because they have blatantly announced ki yes, this is an remake of
Yeah,
Forrest
they
Gump.
credited the writers in the titles and everything also. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
so they have their own take.
They probably saw what happened to Ferrari and like, oh no.
Which Ferrari?
This director Iranian.
Oh,
Asghar Farhadi,
Farhadi.
man.
You think they look outside India to like Farhadi and all that? I mean,
I don't want to crack some dark joke, but
you are bringing Farhadi scenes from a marriage. What all comparisons you brought into this Hindi comedy episode? I have no idea.
We are not seeing any. He really analyzed this film.
Even the algorithm would be like so confused after this episode.
Hindi cinema mein scenes from a marriage. Yes. You could have said like Kyuki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi. At least we could have like matched it in some or mapped it in some sense. So, anyways, I think that's it, guys. Anything? I mean, I asked this 4 times. Anything else to say? But okay. Thank you so much for listening today. I think we had a great discussion on a lot of things, not just the 2 films. We just use that as like a jumping board, of course, to discuss trends, etc. We'll be back with Aryan 100% to talk about Raksha Bandhan because he's clearly very excited. I really want to have Sudeshna back also on whatever topic she is interested in to come back to. I mean, you can come back for Raksha Bandhan ka topic also. There's no problem in that. You can plug your own places where you want people to follow you, Sudeshna, because I forgot to ask you what the handles were before.
The only place I'd want to plug people in is my Instagram account because it's looking very sad. I only have followers. और सब मेरे रिश्तेदार हैं. I need some cinephiles.
We'll get you in touch. Aryan has a whole community built around. Queen is Dead has a whole community.
Don't worry about your Instagram looking sad. Dhruv just recently posted about First Reform.
Yeah, I mean, I do my best to like depress people more with my posts, so it's fine. So no, but we'll get you connected. You can tell your handle here, and then I'll of course put it in the description also. So yeah, you can
Or do you
follow
want me to send it on
Sudeshna
the
at. Sorry, go ahead. Say again, please.
Oh, do you want me to send it on the chat?
No, you can see it yourself here, and then I can put it in the. I follow you.
Yeah. Instagram.com/Sudeshna_says.
Okay, got it. So yes, I will put that in the description. Please follow her, Aryan.
Please follow me.
Aryan at Aryan Talks Film. He wrote recently about anime, I think, right? Aryan, and
Yeah.
how it's doing well in India recently. And he writes about, again, I'm repeating myself, but he writes about everything for everyone, which is yes. And yeah, I look forward to nothing. I don't know what to say. Anyways, you can follow me at Terminal Cinema if you want to see more depressing posts. And thank you so much for listening, and khatam.